Hello Block Party Knitters. I'm here to demonstrate the April block for you. This is Lisa with Old Orchid Yarnery, and our April knitted block is called the Mock Wrap Cable. It's a little hard to see in this picture, but it looks like it has cables, but they're not really cables. Here's my completed square, so you can take a look. See how it looks like it's got cables running up it, but that's not done by cabling or using a cable needle at all. So I will demonstrate it to you. It's a 6-row repeat, and you cast on any number that's a multiple of 4. For mine, I did cast on 56 stitches, the way the pattern states that I'll be giving you. But for our demonstration purposes here today, I've just cast on 20 stitches. We're going to go through the whole 6-round repeat just to demonstrate each row to you. It's really straightforward, and I think you'll like it. So cast on your stitches, and then your preparation row is a wrong side row, and we're simply going to purl 3, knit 1 all the way to the end. Remember, don't knit with your tail. I remind myself that every time. That's why I always remind you. So we're purling 3. Keep in mind, I'm a Continental knitter. If you're an English style knitter, it'll look slightly different for you. We're going to purl 3, knit 1 all the way across the row. This pattern was really fun to do. I like the way that it gives a look of cables without actually having to cable. I can see it being used in a sweater or a scarf or something like that because it's just really interesting and provides a nice texture. All right, purl 3, knit 1, almost done here. So that was just our preparation row. That was not actually row 1. We're just getting it set up and ready to go. And knit 1. Oops. Okay. So there we go. So then we're going to turn and we're going to do row 1, which is a right side row. So it says, and this is the motion, the stitch combination that makes what looks like that cable. It happens twice in the 6-row repeat. So we're going to purl the first stitch, and then we're going to slip a stitch. And if it doesn't say so, you always slip as if to purl, which is tip to tip like this, because you don't want to twist that stitch. So we're going to slip a stitch, and now we're going to knit 2, and then we're going to pass that slipped stitch over. So it is this third one from the tip of my needle right here. There's the first stitch was a purl. Here's the slip. There's the knit 2. So I'm going to pick up that slip stitch right here, and I'm going to use my right index finger to control the stitches on the needle because I want to pass this slip stitch over, but I don't want to lose those stitches. So I pass that over. So it creates a little bit of a wrap look there. So we're going to repeat that all the way across. So we'll purl 1, slip 1, tip to tip. Notice my yarn is in the back. Knit 2, and now pass that slip stitch over, which is always going to be the third one from the tip of my needle. Purl 1, slip 1, knit 2, pass the slip stitch over. Purl 1, slip 1, knit 2. So remember, when you're passing that slip stitch over, you're passing it over both of those 2 knit stitches that you just did. So again, using my right index finger to control those stitches so I don't lose them off the tip, and just passing that slip stitch over. It's important not to knit too tightly because then you're going to have a hard time slipping that stitch over. Here's the last 2, so I'm going to knit 2. This is what the end of your round will look like if you cast on a multiple of 4. And now don't forget to pass that slip stitch over. And right over the end. Sometimes it's a little tricky. There we go. Okay, so we've done row 1. And you can kind of see here the little wraps that are caused by passing that slip stitch over the 2 knit stitches. Now if you notice, we've just decreased our number of stitches because we've passed a stitch over several times. So in row 2, we're going to add a stitch back in so that we don't have an overall decrease. So row 2, we're going to purl 1. So start with your yarn in front and purl 1, and then you're going to yarn over, wrap the yarn around the needle, and purl 1 and knit 1. So here's the sequence again. Purl 1, yarn over, purl 1, knit 1. Purl 1, yarn over, purl 1, knit 1. Now, one thing that I noticed as I was working through this is I was always able to tell if I was on at this point, because my yarn over was always going to happen between this little pair of stitches that's formed by that passing that stitch over on the previous row. See how I have a pair of stitches and a single, and a pair of stitches and a single? So the yarn over is always, I'm purling that first one of the pair, and the yarn over is in between them, and then a purl 1 and a knit 1. Again, here's my pair of stitches, so I'm going to purl 1, yarn over, purl the next one in the pair, and then knit the last stitch. And so that's the end of row 2. You repeat that all the way to the end. That is a wrong side row. Row 3, we're going to turn around. Row 3 and 4 are pretty easy. Row 3 is purl 1, knit 3. So we're going to purl 1, and we're back to our original number of stitches now, because that yarn over fixed the problem of reduction in stitches when we did the past the slip stitch over. So I got purl 1, knit 3, purl 1, knit 3, purl 1. Now one of those knits might feel a little strange. I'm going to show you. Here's knit 1. The second one, you see it's that yarn over. We're knitting that yarn over. So don't lose that off your needle. Go ahead and knit it as one of your knit 3. Purl 1, oops, and then knit 3, purl 1, knit 3, and then we're at the end of our row. So you're just going to complete that, repeat that process all the way across your row. Again, I only have 20 stitches here. You're probably going to have 56 or thereabouts. All right, so I'm on row 4 now. Now row 4 is a wrong side row, and it's just going to be the opposite of what row 3 was. Row 3 we did purl 1, knit 3. Row 4 we're going to purl 3, knit 1. So you see I have these 3 purl stitches and a knit, so we're just going to do what the stitch is on this side. Purl 3, purl 3, and knit 1. And you're going to do that all the way across. So rows 3 and 4 are almost like a resting row, really, because it's just the combination of the purls and the knits. You don't have to think about doing anything special. No yarn overs, no slipping, no passing. Just almost like a resting row. Purl 3, knit 1, purl 3, knit 1, and finally purl 3, and knit 1. So row 5 is going to be very similar, if not exactly the same, to row 1. So row 5, we're going to purl 1, and then we're going to do the slipping again. So we're going to purl 1, we're going to slip 1. Remember, see my yarn is in back, and I'm slipping point to point so I don't twist that stitch. Knit 2, and then we're going to pass that slip stitch over again. There's the 3rd stitch from the tip of my needle. Control the other 2 stitches with my right index finger and pass them over. Purl 1, slip 1, knit 2, pass slip stitch over. Repeat it all the way to the end. Purl 1, slip 1, knit 2, pass the slip stitch over. I'm just grabbing it with my left needle tip, holding onto these stitches with my right index finger, and slipping it over and off the tip of the needle. Purl 1, slip 1, knit 2, pass slip stitch over. Once again, purl 1, slip 1, knit 2, and without losing anything, pass that last slip stitch over. So that's the end of row 5. So we're almost done with our repeat. Let's turn it around, and now row 6 is just like row 2. We're going to purl 1, and remember we have to do a yarn over there to replace that passed over stitch so we don't lose our count of stitches. So we're going to purl 1, yarn over, purl 1, and knit 1. Now remember earlier I talked about the pairs of stitches. You see them here. Here's the pair and a single and a pair and a single and a pair and a single and a pair and a single. Those pairs of stitches are caused by passing that slip stitch over. So you'll know you're on the right track when you purl the first one of those paired stitches, do a yarn over in between them, and then purl the second one, and then knit that single stitch. So purl 1, yarn over, purl 1, and knit 1. I like to come up with little tricks sometimes on pattern repeats to help me know if I'm on the right track as I'm going through. So purl 1, yarn over, purl 1, and I also know that I'm going to knit that single stitch because you see the column of knit stitches going down from it. This is the wrong side of the work, but I can see that column of stitches going down, so I know that's the one I knit. And the last repeat for me on mine, purl 1, yarn over, purl 1, and knit 1. So there's our 6 rows. This is the wrong side, and this is the right side, and you can start to see those mock cables starting to form. So I'm going to come back in a few minutes, and I'm going to demonstrate those 6 rows knitting English style for anybody that wants to do that. If not, you can skip ahead to the end. Okay, here's row 2. So we're going to have the yarn in front because we're going to start with a purl 1. And then we're going to yarn over, which is taking the yarn around our needle back to the front again because our next stitch is a purl. And now yarn to the back for a knit. Okay, here's that sequence again. Yarn front to purl 1, yarn over, purl 1, and yarn back to knit 1. Yarn forward, purl 1, yarn over, purl 1, yarn back to knit 1. Yarn forward, purl 1, yarn over, which is simply wrapping the yarn around the needle, coming back to the front again for the next purl, yarn back, and knit 1. Last repeat for me, yarn forward, purl 1, yarn over, purl 1, yarn back, and knit 1. Oh my goodness, this is an exercise in humility because I do not knit well English style. All right, so now we're going to turn around. We're going to go row 3. Get untangled from my yarn here. All right, row 3 is purl 1, knit 3 all the way across. So we'll start with the yarn in front, and we're going to purl 1, and then we're going to move the yarn to the back and knit 3. We'll do that all the way across. Remember, when you come to that yarn over from the previous row, it might feel kind of strange to knit into it, but it's fine. Okay, yarn forward to purl 1. Oops. And then yarn back to knit 3. You know, when I knit color work, sometimes I'll have one strand in my right hand and one in my left hand, and that's about the only time I ever handle yarn in my right hand when I'm knitting, as you can tell. Yarn forward, purl 1, yarn back, knit 3. All right, yarn forward to purl 1, yarn back, knit 3. Yarn forward to purl 1, yarn back to knit 3. And that'll be the end of row 3. Okay, be right back to go to row 4. All right, row 4, English style. Get set up here. So row 4 is kind of the opposite of row 3, where row 3 was purl 1, knit 3. This one is going to be purl 3, knit 1. So we're going to have the yarn in front, do 3 purls, and then yarn to the back to knit 1. You know, perhaps I should practice English style, get a little better at it, so I don't look quite so awkward. Or I can just embrace it and realize that it looks a little awkward, and that's okay. 2, 3 purls, yarn back, and knit 1. And as always on a row like this, if you kind of get confused and you're not sure where you're at, you can always look down and see, okay, there's a purl, so I need to purl it. Because we're just purling the purls and knitting the knits on this row. Purl, purl, purl. Yarn back. And knit 1. Yarn forward. 3 purls, and a purl, yarn back, knit 1. Now, you know, oftentimes we just knit the way we're taught originally, and my friend Luann Garcia taught me to knit about 10 years ago. And she taught me continental knitting. So that's why I knit continental. 3 purls. And yarn back and knit the last one. Okay, that was row 4. So here we go. There's our wrong side of our work. There's the right side of our work. Again, you can see those mock cables starting to form. Ooh, my tension's a bit off in that last section. I wonder why. Okay. I know why. I'm being silly. All right, row 5. So row 5, we're going to start with a purl 1. Number 5 is just like row 1. So we're going to purl 1. And then we're going to take our yarn to the back. And we're going to slip 1. And then we're going to knit 2. And we're going to pass that slip stitch over those 2 knit stitches. Then yarn forward, purl 1, yarn back, slip 1, tip to tip so we don't twist anything, and then knit 2 and pass that slip stitch over. Yarn forward, purl 1, yarn back, slip 1, knit 2, pass the slip stitch over. Yarn forward, purl 1, yarn back, slip, knit 2, and pass the slip stitch over. Yarn forward, purl 1, yarn back, slip 1, knit 2, and then we'll pass it over. And the slip stitch right there, pass it over. That's the end of row 5. All right, last row, row 6. we're going to start with a purl 1. Now this is the row where we have these pairs of stitches caused by the passing the slip stitch over, and we've reduced our stitches because of that passing over. So row 6, just like row 2, has yarn overs to add the stitches back in so our count remains constant throughout the square. So we're going to start, oops, look at me getting all set up for Continental again. Okay, so we're going to start with a purl, and then a yarn over, which is just taking the yarn around the needle, bring it back to the front to get ready for the next purl stitch, and then taking it to the back to knit 1. And then we'll come back to the front to purl 1. I want to talk to you about changing knitting styles, but I don't think I can do it while I'm doing this row because I have to concentrate. Yarn around, yarn over, purl 1, so I'll wait for just a minute to do that. And then yarn to the back and knit 1. Yarn forward to purl 1, yarn over, purl another 1. Now you English style knitters are probably just laughing because it looks so silly. All right, yarn back and knit 1. Yarn forward, purl 1, yarn over, purl the second 1, yarn back, knit 1. What do we got going here? Not sure what I did there. Yarn forward, purl 1, yarn over, purl another 1, yarn back, and knit that last stitch like that. All right, so that was row 6. Ever so elegantly demonstrated. So there we go. You're going to repeat rows 1 through 6 as many times as you need to get the size square you need. Now I've talked about this before. My squares are blocking out to about 9 inches. Yours may be different. I'm using a DK weight yarn and a size 8 needle. Whatever size yarn you're using, an appropriate needle, your first square that you did was kind of your target. And so we want to make sure all the squares are about that same size now. So here's, for instance, my first square. And so when I was working on this one, I knew I wanted it to be about the same size. This first square is blocked. This one here, which is the mock wrap cable, is not blocked yet. But I looked at the width when I cast on the 56 stitches as called for in the pattern, and I see that it's pretty close. And so when I block this, I'll be able to pull it out and pin the edges, and it won't stretch it too far out. So I'll get the width I need. Hard to see because it's the same color, but I'll get the width I need. And the height is about the same. So I just kept repeating that 6 rows until I got to the height I wanted. Now remember that if you are going to be stretching your square significantly this way to get your size you need widthwise, then stretching it widthwise takes away some of the height. So you're going to want to be sure to go a little extra if you're going to have to stretch it very far. Now for mine, I really feel like I kind of laid it on here and estimated, but I really feel like I'm not going to have to pull it out that far, and I think it's going to block out to be just right. But just keep in mind, if you have to pull it far this way, see how it gets shorter? Do it this way on the table so you can see the width, the height here. And if I pull it out this way, that height shrinks. So depending on how far you have to stretch it to block it to width, you may lose some height. So just keep that in mind. All right, so I did want to talk for a minute about changing knitting styles since I was doing that. You know, some have said that English style knitters usually say, oh, I wish I had knit Continental, it's faster. Whatever style knitting you have is perfectly fine. One is not better than the other, one is not right, one is not wrong. You know, one may be a little faster for some, but some English knitters knit very fast. And quite frankly, knitting's not a race anyway. We do it to enjoy the process, not necessarily to race one another. If you do want to practice the other knitting style, start with just a small swatch and practice back and forth. whatever you do, do not change knitting styles in the middle of a project, because your tension will change pretty drastically. As I don't know if you can tell, but this first 6 rows here, I was knitting Continental, which is my normal style. And then you look at the next 6 rows and they're quite a bit looser because I was knitting English style, obviously not well. And I obviously was not comfortable with that style. So you don't want to ever switch in the middle of a project. But if you want to try to practice the other way, not because you think it's better or right, and you're wrong, but if you want to just learn something new, start on a small swatch and maybe just start with stockinette. Knit and purl and knit and purl, and get the hang of the movements of the yarn and your hands and holding the yarn in the opposite way that you normally do it. So good luck on that. If you have any problems, be sure to let me know. I'll look forward to seeing your squares. Bye-bye.